We've got a lot to get into today. Jack Posobiec joins. He really needs no introduction. Poso is obviously one of the more popular commentators out there. You can find his books. He's senior editor of Human Events, veteran Navy intelligence officer. Bulletproof is the book. The other book was on humans, both of which we will discuss. Bulletproof, which you see up there, is the truth about the assassination attempts on Donald Trump. And then Andrew Gruel will join us after a little while. He, of course, a food entrepreneur. You see him regularly on Gutfeld. Now on City Council in Huntington Beach, CEO and founder of American Gravy Restaurant Group. And really, we'll talk about his wonderful food. And he's working with the wellness company. And he has a book there with the Brave Group. Let me make sure I'm getting that correctly. Yes. And after we speak with them, I'm going to speak to Angela Alvarez. We're going to talk a little bit about grieving parents and organizations to support that after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I recently learned about a great product line formulated using a novel scientific breakthrough. It is called Active Skin Repair, and my whole family uses it and loves it, including our new granddaughter. Actually, her parents were using it for diaper rash and other skin irritations before we learned about it. It's a baby strength spray made from naturally occurring molecule called HOCl.
The technology was just kind of really mind-blowing to me on how simple but how effective it was.
HOCl is a non-toxic, clinically proven antimicrobial molecule, been used in hospital for a long time, and it's actually produced by our own immune system. The applications are numerous: wound healing, insect bites, even eczema, rosacea, other inflammatory skin conditions.
What's really cool about it is, again, no toxicity. So you're not using any harsh antiseptics. It's non-cytotoxic. So when you're putting it on, you're killing the bacteria, but you're not hurting any of those healthy cells that your body's producing to actually help heal itself.
Active Skin Repair Spray also comes in a kid versus an adult version. Get yours at drdrew.com/skin repair for 20% off. That again is drdrew.com/skin repair for a 20% discount. Jack Posobiec in here. Again, the book is Unhuman and Bulletproof. Jack, welcome back.
Dr. Drew, so great to see you again. And by the way, just a wonderful time I had with you at the White House not too long ago for the podcast row that we did.
It was fun. I want to get your thoughts about all that. Any standout moments for you?
Well, really, I think the standout for me personally was Secretary Bessent and sitting with the Secretary of the Treasury. Now, this was just a few days before the Liberation Day and the tariff movement really took off with President Trump just a few days later. So we were talking more about the mineral deal that had been the subject of a lot of negotiations between the U.S. and Ukraine vis-a-vis the Ukraine-Russia war. And I had actually traveled with Secretary Bessent to Ukraine to present the earliest draft of that mineral deal to President Zelensky over in Kiev in the presidential complex there. We know that's really become something of a big football between the two countries. But it was really those ideas of understanding, I think, that the briefing that he was able to give my audience, and that's Human Events Daily, every day right here on X, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, by the way, that we were then much more informed, I think, than the mainstream media when the tariffs were rolled out a few days later, because, hey, he's given us the inside track on exactly what the plan is.
The other thing, I got him right after you. And by the way, I was trying to get Alina Alba too, and she bolted right after she talked to you. So I don't know what went on there, but you
Secretary
scared her
Kennedy. And Bobby did the same thing to me.
It's true. It's true. It was really fun. It was really a great experience, great opportunity, frankly. And it was great to meet these people in person and poke at them a little bit. But I got Bessent. I guess I'm being criticized for not mispronouncing his name. I guess the syllable, the first syllable is emphasized. Bessent, is that correct? Am I getting it finally? But in any event, he emphasized to me, I tried to talk to him a little about cost savings. He was like not interested. He goes, wouldn't it be great if we do have cost savings, but I'm going to be focused on deregulation. We've got to unravel the regulatory state. Did he say anything? He didn't give me any specifics. Did he give you any?
No, not on deregulation. We really focused on, like I said, the mineral deal, this Ukraine piece, and then on tariffs. Because for us, foreign policy is something we really cover a lot on human events, and that we knew that the tariffs were going to be rolled out in a couple of days. So that was the really big focus. And I think when it comes down to it, though, you're right that you can't look at what we call this the Great Deal, and you can't take what Trump is doing on tariffs in a vacuum. You can't isolate it because it is being done in conjunction with lowering taxes, with lowering regulations, with flooding American energy back onto the world market, which lowers the price of oil. And the price of energy writ large. So, of course, all of this is being done in conjunction. So rather than say, oh, this is only one element of things that are going on and try to analyze that in a vacuum, that's not actually what the major economic program is that's being rolled out with Bessent and others. And now Bessent, as we see, has really taken the forefront on all of this.
And to your point, it seems to me that tariffs generally have to be thought of as, I know he loves tariffs. The president loves tariffs. He loves the income that he could potentially get, however you want to argue where it comes from. But that it seems to be fundamentally, if not secondarily, but I think fundamentally a negotiating position. And so how else do you get these other countries to the table except by forcing the issue and bringing them, saying, okay, you don't want to come to the table? Great, it will cost you. Well, guess what? They come to the table then. There's skin in the game.
Well, that's exactly right. And with various countries out there, they may have things like, I've spent time at the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai, and I can tell you firsthand, it is very hard for any U.S. company or any Western company to break into the Chinese market. Even Hollywood, for all the Hollywood blockbusters we hear about, they say, oh, this movie's going to do well in the China market. Well, even they have a strict limit on the amount of movies that are able to go into the Chinese market and the types of movies, I should say, that are approved for the Chinese market. So even something like as that is, faces really high barriers. And so what President Trump and Bessent and the team are doing is to say, look, you may not call it a tariff, but all of these barriers to entry, it's much more elegant and much more simple to just say, reciprocal tariff, we're going to put this on. And of course, we always knew so we knew right out the bat on human events that this was going to be the high watermark. That's your opening bid in the negotiation. And then everything that's been walked down since there has going to be, this is what Trump does, by the way, a lot of the time, these art of the deal type situations where he comes out with the big opening bid and then everyone comes to the table and it gets negotiated down to exactly what he wanted in the first place. And I think that's what's going on in the tariff situation.
You put the art of the deal up there. It's really funny. As I was listening to the French comment on this, they were saying it's the art of the deal on a global scale. So is there anything, before I bring Chef Gruel in here, which I'm going to do in a second, anything worrying you, angering you? What's got you in your crosshairs right now?
Well, right now on the program, and people have seen this, and I've been tweeting a lot about it, we see a lot of support for this leftist violence and just criminal organizations in general writ large across the country, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and we've seen a huge political push to let these people either out of jail or reduce their bail, let them out, like this horrible story down in Texas. One kid stabs another kid, but all of a sudden he's let out on house arrest. Then you've got people like the Democrats running around saying, oh, this MS-13 member is just a Maryland man and we've got to bring him back into the country. And I've never seen politicians fight so hard for a U.S. citizen as they have for this illegal alien. And this kind of goes, and you put that on top of this in Pennsylvania. You've got a guy who's certainly a political rival of mine, the current governor, Josh Shapiro, who is a Democrat. Yet, of course, he faced a firebombing using Molotov cocktails of the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. Beautiful mansion, by the way. And this guy, it turns out, is a registered socialist and has been someone who supports BLM and a variety of these far left causes. And so what I'm noticing is this is something that we talked about in our book unhumans, the secret history of communist revolutions and how to crush them, of course, Luigi Maggioni as well, which you and I have discussed, is the rise of leftist violence and the coddling of it by places like CNN, places like Netflix. It always tends to be the snake eating its own tail. It's the Ouroboros. And now all of a sudden you're starting to see mainstream Democrats become the targets of it as well, along with the Tesla dealerships. And a guy was arrested for making threats on DNI Tulsi Gabbard, who herself was a true Democrat her entire life, by the way. This is something that's become a huge problem, and I'm just not seeing all politicians. By the way, this should be something that everybody in all politics stands against. Yep. No violence, 100%. You have problems, we're going to deal with it at the ballot box. I don't like Governor Josh Shapiro. I've never once said I condone or would even interested in any kind of violence against him. I'll beat him at the ballot box. We can win that way. And I would hope that it's something that all people from whatever side of the aisle you might hail from can stand against.
It's grievance, but it's delusion. I don't know if you saw that video made the rounds again with Taylor Lorenz and talking about her waxing, poetic about the moral man that Luigi Mangione is.
That's exactly what I was referring to. Yes.
And yeah, I know. And it's delusional. That is, when she wakes up from this, she's going to go, what was I thinking? This is a disturbed state that people are in.
Hybristophilia, is that right?
Hybristophilia, I taught you that one. That is but this is, it's gone a little further, I think. Hybristophilia is the love of criminals. But it's gone a little further where I saw her, she looked like she was in an altered state, waxing about narrative, but she was really talking about myth. Like she was living in a mythical world. That is disconnected from reality. I've learned more about this kid. Look, he was not interested in healthcare. He was delusional himself. He was paranoid. He probably had a manic psychosis, and he was focused on corporate greed. And healthcare was a convenient sort of way of, something to put in his crosshairs. But it's not about healthcare. Yes, we're all frustrated with the healthcare system. He's not a moral person. He's not a well person. And your thinking, Ms. Lorenz, is delusional. So it's grievance meets delusion. That's how we're getting into real trouble. And the fact that that's the actual video there, maybe I'll play it a little bit later. But the fact that we don't, look, when people become delusional, you have to treat them like a patient. You don't treat them like a rational person, because in the nature of delusion is the lack of rationality. They can't be reasoned with. You got to go, stop it, stop, move along, let's go. Here we go. We're not going to tolerate that. And that's it.
I couldn't agree more. We talk about this in our book. We wrote the entire book about this, that this thing was on the rise, that this pathology was on the rise, a cluster of pathologies, if you will, that are completely on the rise, that some start in politics, but always have to do with grievance. And the main theme of the entire book is that none of this has to do with justice. None of this has to do with actual equity or equality or reform of society. It is all rooted in resentment, jealousy, and envy, specifically in envy, which of course you and I talk about pretty much every time I've been on here.
1,000%. It's time to bring Chef Andrew Gruel into this conversation. Andrew Gruel, CM Hunt Gutfeld. Let's get him in there. He was, Andrew, I want you to tell us about where we can see your podcast, your stream, or I don't technically, I guess podcast with your wife that you very kindly had me on, where I watched you work some of your magic.
I appreciate that. Well, I don't know what to call it, actually. Just a bunch of people having fun in the kitchen. It is on Rumble at American Gravy. I am on YouTube, but primarily on X as well at American Gravy. And we'll have a few more outlets we'll be announcing here in the next month or so. Appreciate you having me on, especially on the heels of talking about envy. I was very envious about that wonderful conversation.
Well, now, I figure I felt you before you came after us, and then you started expressing you in here. But there was something else I wanted to ask you. Oh, how does it feel? I don't know if you know, Jack, but Mr. Gruel is working in government now. Councilman Gruel, I guess we should call you.
I saw that. We're graced by an actual elected official here. Let's hold his feet to the fire, guys.
Yeah. Well,
How's it been?
It's been interesting. I always say if you want to understand politics and you want to get an MBA in politics, start on a city level in city council. What once was pitched to me as a few meetings a month. I'm probably up to meeting number 100 right now, but I genuinely love it. It is fascinating understanding city politics, the general plan, the strategic plan. I also get about 50 emails a day about potholes and speed bumps and left-hand turns that should be put in place. So it's the granular stuff and the broad stuff. But the city of Huntington Beach right now has multiple lawsuits against the state of California for their overreach. We're a charter city, so many of the things that are trying to force down upon us are not just illegal. I mean, it's unconstitutional. More recently, Measure A, which is our voter ID, that was passed unanimously here in the city of Huntington Beach by voter and obviously city council. We were sued by the state of California. And then because they said we couldn't do that by state law, but we're a chartered city, and we recently won that lawsuit. So Huntington Beach, being a 7-0 majority, is going to set the stage for many other cities in California and hopefully around the country where we can fight this craziness and show that you can do it on a local level. So that's really important.
It is craziness, and the fact that more cities aren't fighting back. Everyone feels sort of helpless. I noticed recently, Jack, that we are sort of around the world. I'm hearing people talk about government's money being their money. It's my money, my tax money that they're misappropriating or using so casually. I've not heard that in a long, long time, like since maybe the 60s or 70s. It's almost like we forgot that the government is funded by the people, meant to represent the people. When you hear it, it sounds odd that we've not been talking that way up until this point.
Well, I do think it's odd, but it's also, I think, part and parcel of Elon Musk. I've got to give him credit for this. People know Elon from the Teslas, they know him for SpaceX, but he's decided to wear this new hat of Doge and say, look, we actually should keep an eye on where our money is going, what is happening with the taxpayer dollars, because this is part and parcel of everything that we've been talking about, making government more efficient, even on the city level, like Chef Gruel is saying, making government less wasteful on the national level, the local level, every level. These are things that you can have Doge on any level of government. They're doing it in, Tulsi Gabbard is doing it in the Intel community now with her new group of DIG, which also is, of course, going to be doing declassifications and transparency. But the idea of looking at government as not just the government's money, but an understanding, a fundamental understanding of this is money that has been taken out of the public sector. It's actually the private sector, but really based on the public's economic activity. And by the way, based on leveraging future public activity, future private economic activity in terms of leveraging the borrowing that goes on from our government and including, by the way, the spending of the Federal Reserve. Guess what? It was never the government's money. It's always been your money. So people are taking it, I think, through the Trump movement. And even, by the way, if you're not a fan of Trump, it has made people more civic-minded with an understanding of, hey, this is our money. What are we going to do with it? And how should we be spending it?
Yeah, and I think that's an improvement. I don't think I'm speaking out of school to tell everyone that Chef Gruel is joining us at the Wellness Company. We're going to start getting into food and food sourcing. Speaking of the government, why, Chef Gruel, has it been in the interest of government to help screw up the food supply and give us lots of what RFK calls them food-like substances rather than real food?
Well, they're taking the food out of food and they're replacing it with chemicals. I think you and I have talked about this previously in the past, but why is it in the government's best interest to do so? Well, it all comes down to money, right? It all comes down to kind of fiat. It comes down to the reserve and the fact that over the years, the government has inflated our currency so much and they have misappropriated so many of our dollars and pumped so much money into the economy that the primary area in which people can actually understand how little our money is worth is through food, because it's really the breadbasket, right? And actually, interestingly, in a lot of the indices over the years, they've removed food from that kind of breadbasket, the means by which they measure the value of our dollar. So as they make our food cheaper and cheaper, they're artificially giving us the impression that our dollar is worth more than it really is. It is in their best interest to do so. Otherwise, there would be mass revolutions. Revolutions around the world has all come back to food. We've seen it because people can't buy food, right? The basic sustenance. So the idea is we create this massive conglomeration at the top, this merging of government and private business, creating kind of, well, really it's fascism, right? And if we tell them what they can put in our food, we remove all of the nutrients, we make it cheaper. And the cheaper it is, then there's the general appearance that things are still affordable in the United States. So we can print all this money on the other side and they won't realize.
It's interesting. It makes me think about so many of the other aspects, some of the other sort of deliriums that we're into these days. I worry. I feel like a lot of things are kind of coming clear for people, that COVID sort of exposed a lot. Like we should be questioning everything, frankly. And I've seen people recently starting to question even climate dogma. And I thought to myself, Jack, I don't know if you're aware, but I was in the ecology movement of the early 70s. I was deep in it. And I was a scientist looking at it. And I had come to the conclusion, speaking of food, that we were going to have massive famine. There was no way to avoid it. That acid rain was going to destroy the Northeast. That our rivers and lakes were gone forever. That oil, we had maybe 20 years. We had to prepare for that. And there was going to be a global ice age. And anyone who questioned us was just ignorant. They didn't know the science. They were just plain old ignorant. And we were adamant about our certitude. And I've decided I'm a time traveler, Jack. I'm coming from another time. I'm come into the present to help people understand the fact that there is no certitude to anything, that these ideas come and go, particularly science. It moves, it morphs, it changes. It's a dialectic always going on. But that I come to you from the original climate movement, and I was as certain and as dogmatic as any climate scientist today, and I was freaking wrong. And it's giving me a flexibility in looking at today's issues. How do we get people to understand or to listen to us time travelers, Jack?
Well, can I ask maybe, and maybe this is informative for the audience, what was it that kind of woke you up personally from that, initial movement? I mean, was it just that time continued and the predictions didn't meet what you had thought, or was there anything that, something that happened where you really kind of sat back and said, wait a minute, this isn't comporting at all?
There were two things, which was, one was genetic food modifications. All of a sudden, everything we predicted about how food, and this is why I wanted Gruel to talk about this in a second, and whatever you feel about genetic modifications of food, it prevented the famines. Overnight, the famine issue went away with what happened at Caltech, essentially, in the botany department. And all of a sudden, you could raise wheat in high, hot, no rain environments, and it changed everything overnight. Okay, famine went away. Number one. Number two, we found a million other sources of oil, which we were convinced there was nothing. So there was more time to develop other things that we never imagined. So it was those two things that happened. I watched them happen in real time, and these imminent concerns. That was our thing. It was happening. It was on our doorstep. I thought, oh no, people adapt and figure things out. And when there are slow-moving crises underway, humans have an extraordinary ability to come to terms with it and to adjust. So that was my experience, Jack.
I love it. Yeah, that's the Scott Adams law of slow-moving crises. I love that one.
That's exactly where it came from. But Andrew, so what do I do with the genetic food issue? That's why I've been sort of agnostic about GMOs, because I've been like, I watched it do something pretty good. I don't know what to do with it now.
Yeah, the GMO movement that did start in the 60s and the 70s has obviously been credited for stopping famine, just like you just described right now. However, what happens with new technologies, always in the form of a government manipulation, becomes the curse that it was intended to avoid, because GMOs went from just really creating a system in which we can grow some more of these commodity crops to let's continue to genetically modify. Let's patent that modification. Let's give a handful of corporations the ability to work hand in glove with the government behind closed doors to continue to manipulate the food supply, and manipulate the food supply in a manner in which we give power to a small handful or cadre of people, right? So look at what's happened with Monsanto. Look at what happened with a lot of these patented modifications on our crops and fertilizers, et cetera, which have once again consolidated the hands of our food system, agricultural, terrestrial, all across the board into a few big corporations, and has made the food less healthy. It's ruined the soil. There's been all these unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea.
But it's interesting to me that my experience as a physician is the same as you as a chef, which is centralization of authority. It has a horrible effect. You need to distribute authority out to where the food is produced, out to where the doctors are taking care of patients, and it's the same thing, isn't it, in food?
Yeah, you have something good and then the government gets involved and it turns into something bad. It's the same old formula over and over again. That calculus could be repeated in every single industry, every single conversation. I like talking about it through food because that's approachable and people understand it, as opposed to a lot of the obfuscation that we see in other areas of the government. But now look right now, right? Geoengineering. We're seeing a lot about cloud seeding and these chemtrails, et cetera. Let's put the chemtrails aside. Let's just talk about geoengineering in general and manipulating the environment, the air above us. That is a fact. That is a proven fact. And so much of it hasn't been studied. And yet the government kind of controls those mechanisms by which they're engineering the ecosystem. And what's the long-term effect of that going to be? Some of it is said to be good right now, just like it could have been with GMOs in the 60s and 70s. But now fast forward 5 decades, and what do we have going on?
Really so interesting. Are you aware of this new? I want to talk a little MAHA to both you guys for a few minutes. And I guess there was, I wonder if RFK was a part of this fast tracking of a new mRNA vaccine for, of all things, bird flu. It's being called Self-Amplifying, next generation. It's only in phase 1 trials. I have not seen it yet. There's the headline for it. Again, phase 1 is the very, very, very beginning of the process. So I have no problem with a phase 1 trial. What I'm worried about is that we're moving towards panic and moving towards centralized vaccine distribution, all these things. Again, there have been a few dozen cases of the H5N1, and there's certain subvariants that have been more serious than others. We're seeing no big distribution of it. Although, Andrew, I think your wife got conjunctivitis, so I thought maybe is she hanging around the birds a lot? I didn't want to say anything out loud, but is Lauren's conjunctivitis go away, or does she have bird flu?
Now it seems like she's got this long-term dry eye situation. I think she's been hanging out with the chickens at night, but we can talk about that behind closed doors.
So listen, you guys, she announces her medical problems on X all the time. You guys should call me when you have questions. I know a lot about dry eye. Trust me, a lot. So let me help her. I gave her 1 drop recommendation on X, and oh, great, this is great. I got other ideas. She should. You both should call me. But Jack, on sort of that same issue of MAHA, I don't know. I have great faith in Bobby Kennedy's ability to handle, dismantle, figure out adulterating influences in very big, complicated systems. But people seem to be getting worried that he's losing control, or he doesn't have his eye on the target quite the way he should. My personal position is give the guy a break. He's just got in there. It's only a few months in. What are your thoughts?
Well, no, I think that's right as well. Look, MAHA is, and this is what I always tell people, especially in the political world, is that, people say MAGA there's an NBC poll that came out. They said MAGA is, it's getting more popular than ever, et cetera. Okay, fine. MAHA is actually the most popular movement in America today. It's MAHA. This is something that crosses party lines. It's something that's non-political. You don't need to be a Trump supporter to be a MAHA supporter. It's something, by the way, that started, quote unquote, on the left. It was the liberals who were sort of the crunchy types, the environmentalists, the ones who are worried about what's going into our food, what's going into our bodies in terms of medications. Then through COVID, it sort of went through this process where it migrated along with RFK himself, by the way, sort of being the avatar of this, and now has migrated to a position where there's all sorts of people who are supporting MAHA. And when I go to these various events, I see people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different political inclinations, but everyone has a specific interest in making America more healthy. Now, look, when you're getting into the federal government, and I've seen this with the Trump administration everywhere. I've been, more focused on intel, more focused on defense, foreign policy, but you have to understand that when these people come in at the very top, the secretaries, the cabinet level people, or the department level people, if you've got FDA or NIH, so Dr. Markey or Jay Bhattacharya, so you have situations where you may have a small leadership team there, but the entire administration and the entire agency are still being run by the same people day in, day out that have always been there. DOJ, of course, has been playing a role in this at a few places like USAID. And so the idea that you're just going to stop everything writ large or immediately turn everything off overnight, it just takes time. These are massive, absolute behemoths of federal bureaucracies. The Department of Defense, by the way, is one of the largest employers in the entire government. So the HHS, by the way, is right behind it as one of the largest employers out there. So I think it's something where people have to understand there's a lot on his plate. Now, that being said, when it comes to the FDA and fast tracking this, I believe that's the lunar H5N1. It's out of Arcturus Therapeutics, and the lunar was the delivery system. This drug delivery system targeting cells for the mRNA. And now we remember the lunar COVID-19 was one that people had a lot of questions about, and specifically the way it was being delivered into the cells and what it was doing to those cells. So it seems like I wonder if they're using that same delivery system again for the mRNA. The mRNA vaccine, which obviously they say is a way to make it faster. But of course, the question everyone's going to have is, are you doing the tests? And we know that this is something that RFK, Bobby Kennedy, has said over and over, the Secretary of Health, that it's not about, for him, it's not about saying we're anti-vaccine. It's making sure that we're getting the proper testing.
No. Yes, it is the lunar mRNA platform. Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. I continue to say the same thing about the vaccines, that we have these whole viral alternatives. We could, if you want to stay with mRNA, you could come up with maybe a nuclear capsid version of it. But we continue to push back to COVID vaccines that produce unregulated amounts of spike protein, when we know the spike is the pathogenic component of the virus. It's the oddest thing in the world that we don't back away from that. And we're seeing, I don't know if Ram Yogendra, Susan, his paper got picked up for publication. Finally, they were getting all sorts of resistance to it for years because it shows long vaccine, and the mechanism for it. Thank God we can start to talk about maybe some interventions for my peers and friends and patients that have long vax, which is not that uncommon. At the same time, we're able to finally ask questions about autism, I guess. Why has it gone from 1 to 150 to 1 to 30 into 1 to 30 in the last 20 years? Just the scientific question. Either of you have any, Andrew, you're shaking your head yes. Any thoughts about that?
Just the mere question itself should not be a catalyst for backlash and being called a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. And this is what I see out of MAHA, right? Everybody kind of has their own definition. Some are very, very specific. Some are kind of really granular. And then in my case, it's a bit more nuanced. And I think from a much grander perspective, in the sense that, number one, we're talking about all this. That's key. Number two, the information is transparent. I don't believe we're going to get into a world where we completely flip the government upside down and we're able to shake out big pharma and all the corporate interest that's already stitched into the framework of the government. Instead, I believe that it's going to be a 1 or 2 or 3 step process. We got to stew the meat. We can't boil it. So what I see happening right now is that the media is trying to create conflict within the MAHA movement because it scares them. Because as Jack said, it's one of the most powerful political movements we've seen in probably 100 years. And in what they're doing, though, is they're telling on themselves, because now we're in this stage 1 piece of the conversation and we're all talking about it. And now it's under this microscope. People are going to be loud about it. And it's my goal here to get people to understand it so that if anything, if this thing does start to get pushed through, that there's labeling and there's no mandates, there's full transparency on this from the food all the way through that supply chain. And that in and of itself is a bigger success from what we saw in the previous administration. So to that point, I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The mandate is the bioethical problem. Andrew, I'm going to let you go. Jack, can I keep you an extra 5 minutes? I want to get an intelligence primer from you, if you don't mind.
Here we go. Always be ready to be brief. That's our motto.
And Andrew, before I have to take a little break too, but Andrew, before I let you go, what are your plans for TWC? What do you see as some of our grand sweeping goals there that we can accomplish? Or are you allowed to talk about it yet? I assume we are.
Yeah. I mean, already Wellness Farms, which is the arm of kind of the wellness company that's going to be focusing on food. We're bringing together a really great portfolio of products, from great local beef to eggs to chicken to, poultry, and then some perishables, as well as talking about freeze-dried and prepared meals, seed oil free. All of this is going to be accessible directly to the consumer. So once again, flipping that supply chain upside down and creating that direct to consumer conduit so that we can start getting the right foods and getting it, outside of this kind of complicated supply chain. I also find it very funny that whenever you start talking about intelligence, I always have to leave the room. It's been that way my whole life.
I didn't want it to be so obvious, but maybe I should say, rather than intelligence, I should say the intelligence community, or the excesses of intelligence.
There we go.
So, all right. I have to take a quick
Thanks
break.
for having me on.
Andrew, go back with more Posobiec. You bet. Good to see you. And tell Lauren to call me, or you call me about questions medically. I'm happy to help you guys. Be right back. We'll finish up with Jack Posobiec right after this.
The wellness company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and being rationally ready, and who knows what the future will hold for us. Now TWC has a service to cover your family's medical needs, including and especially prevention. For just $100 a month, the One Wellness Elite membership includes 2 free medical-grade nutraceuticals per month, free prescriptions for over 800 of the most common medications, access to concierge telemedicine available at a moment's notice, and a 15% discount on all supplements and the emergency kits. 15% off the emergency kits. That's quite a saving. So if you're spending $100 or more on supplements and meds every month, this plan will already save you money. If you sign up for a year, you'll save $200. And when you use the link, drdrew.com/TWC, you'll get 10% off the first payment to the One Wellness Elite membership. Check out One Wellness at drdrew.com/TWC and get 10% off your first payment. drdrew.com/TWC. It's all there. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid, it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
Warm weather approaches. Time to start whipping in that Paleo Valley's chocolate or salted caramel grass-fed and finished bone broth powder to your morning coffee. I'm craving one right now, I must tell you. I got screwed up with my schedule. I was literally going to get another bone broth, and I didn't have time for it. Or the sticks, check it out. Both ways, you're getting at least 13 grams of collagen per scoop, made from actual bones, not hides like other brands. And it's hard to make bone broth taste good. They've done it. Minimally processed, low in calories, sweetened with monk fruit. Paleo Valley's bone broth comes in plain, vanilla, and savory as well. You can add the savory or plain to your summer soups. And you want to stock up for the summer. Go to doctor.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order, 20% when you subscribe. Doctor.com/Paleo Valley. Jack Posobiec is here. Unhuman is the book. And Jack, you were saying on your show, which is it 5 days a week now at 2 o'clock Pacific? I mean, rather Eastern?
That's right. We 2 o'clock Eastern. So we are 2 to 3 Eastern. So that'd be 11 to 1. Or excuse me, 11 to noon Pacific. And we're actually live coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network as well. Really excited to partner with them there. Picked up the third hour of the Charlie Kirk program. And it's just been a really great partnership to be on. We're also, of course, on X every day, so people can check that out, of course, live. And yes, the book is Unhumans. And then the podcast is just Human Events Daily. If you ever miss it live, you just always get it there.
Grievance, envy. You and I will keep talking about that until this all settles down, which I hope to God one day it does. So to wrap things up here, tell us something disturbing. Susan wants to be upset when she finishes this conversation. So tell us something you're worried about with the intelligence community. I saw Mike Benz do a big 3-hour expose. I think it was yesterday. And to me, it feels like more of the same. But are there some extraordinary landmines out there waiting to go off?
Well, certainly. What I would say, though, is the big one that we do have to watch out for is if you're looking in terms of foreign policy. I mean, you've got situations where they just stopped this massive load of explosives going from Poland into Belarus. It was a record-setting haul, I guess, of these explosives, another potential flare-up of the Ukraine-Russia war, potential for false flag attacks and potential for even terroristic-style attacks, assassinations going on over there. So as we wind down things and the peace process gets started vis-a-vis Russia, also, by the way, with Iran and this talk of denuclearization and shutting down the programs, we also have to understand that there are hardliners in all of these countries, including ours, by the way, including the United States, that don't want peace to happen. So how would that express itself? Well, it would express itself with lethal attacks, with violence that is blamed potentially on opponents. It would express itself with the striking down of patriots who have gone into some of these positions, like the USAID or the Department of Defense and others. And there are billions and billions of dollars on the line in terms of the military-industrial complex. The same way, by the way, that Big Pharma gets billions and billions of dollars from their contracts as well. And so for people to think that all of this is going to just be wound down, whether it's MAHA, whether it's MAGA, whether it's anti-war, just understand that you are going up against absolutely billions of dollars. And of course, Secretary Besson, as we were talking earlier, saw the exact same thing on the economic front. And so people need to understand that in these situations, particularly when it comes to war, things can always get very lethal very quickly.
Other than keeping an eye on this, is there something that an average citizen can do?
Well, I think for the average citizen, it's you want to make sure that everything in your family is prepared, that your family is prepared for anything that might happen, any shocks, anything that, God forbid, something happens to the electrical grid in a place where you live, God forbid, something were to happen with any of these situations, like communications go down, or suddenly the supply chains go down, by the way, which we saw during COVID. This was a huge issue where suddenly we weren't getting all of our products from China. So that includes medicine, that includes food, that includes basic survivability for your family. And I think, people used to laugh and they say, "Oh, you preppers, it was one of those reality shows for a while." But I think all of the preppers, COVID showed that those guys were absolutely spot on that our supply chains are absolutely creaky, and any of these issues that goes on in the geopolitical world can all of a sudden affect whether or not supplies are on your shelves at your local supermarket or your local pharmacy, which, by the way, thanks to COVID, most supermarkets are our local pharmacies now, and the shutting down of Walgreens and CVS's and all the rest of it. And so this is really something where, it just pays to think ahead, to say, what do you need? What's the size of your family? You want to have, maybe a 1-month stockpile of just various basic essentials, whether it's medicine, whether it's food, so you don't have to worry should something else happen again.
Jack, appreciate you being here as always. Yeah, Susan's got upset now. Yeah, you follow Jack on X, Jack Posobiec. Oh, yeah, she pulled out
and your Paleo Valley bone broth.
All right, so we work with the Wellness Company, which is about getting medication kits available for exactly what you're talking about. This is the Contagion Emergency Kit. And then we keep lots of bone broth available. It's good protein source.
About downtown LA getting a Contagion. It was going to float up here, and we were going to have
Contagion?
It was.
Oh, no, I was saying
anthrax
I was saying the bubonic plague was coming, and there's no doubt in my mind.
It was going to be a bomb or something.
Anthrax for a minute. Yeah, we had anthrax for a second.
So we had the Contagion kit for that.
Yeah, we also had the Fukushima nuclear thing that we were expecting.
Yeah, but you need to have codeine and
Susan's worried about getting high when things go really bad, Jack. So
Fukushima, that was going to get into the mercury, which is going to affect the tuna, if I remember correctly.
That's right. And we all have big supplies of iodine. Anyway, but you're right.
And water, have a lot of water on hand.
Yep.
Definitely. Water. I have a lot, and Drew was like, why do we have so much water? I go, I don't know, because maybe the neighborhood's going to burn down and they're going to tell us not to drink our water. So
we're right by the fires here in Altadena, and we were prevented. And we were advised not to drink the water. We went to bottle only for a while. So that was the advice.
I'm draining my pool.
Yeah. So we had to get all the crap out of the swimming pool. It was a mess. So, but here we are still.
First world problems.
Jack, you also wrote a book with the Brave Group, right? Did you? We had Dr.
I have. Yeah, that's
Andrew
right.
Gruel's
We did.
book
We
there.
did sort of a. If you're worried about these, we don't necessarily get into the envy side of it there, but we do get into the idea that politicians will try to lie to you and promise you the world and promise you utopia if you just give them power, but they don't actually have your best interests at heart. And so I wrote this book with Brave called The Island of Free Ice Cream. And of course, it's the Island of Free Ice Cream, which of course is run by a pack of wolves. And it's a great way to have these conversations with your kids and to start having those conversations.
I think maybe we got to have that with adults. So, yes. Any concern before I let you go about the new Real ID? I didn't quite get the controversy around that. I have Real ID. We fly all the time, so we had to have it. But look. They've got us a million ways. Is this a new thing we should be concerned about?
Well, the thing that I've said is, and I'm sick of the government demanding that I need some new ID every couple of years. This is something where it's just absolutely a joke. But, something that we said from the political perspective is, I look at my friends on the Democrat side of the aisle and I say, wait a minute. You guys are all in on Real ID. You totally support this. You say everyone's got to get one. The Biden administration put them up in every airport. I guess my passport is also a Real ID, but my driver's license isn't a Real ID. Trying to figure this all out. But whenever it comes to voter ID, suddenly the SAVE Act, that's the apocalypse, especially for women and minorities. And every Democrat comes and tells me that I'm depriving people of their rights and I'm taking everything away from everyone. And there's no way apparently for women or minorities to be able to get a voter ID. Yet everyone is forced to get a Real ID at the exact same time. And to me, clearly that's just an example of them trying to prevent our elections from having any serious integrity behind them, which is obviously something that I've championed for years, which again should not be a partisan issue.
And the ironic lunacy of our government. We in California, Caleb, we had to have Real ID in California already, so we're all Real ID'd out here,
right?
And have been for a while. All right, Jack. Again, give us where the program can be.
It is a pain in the ass
picked up.
to go get.
You on Rumble, amongst other things?
Going to the DMV.
Yeah, we're on Rumble, we're on X, we're on YouTube. It is 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, so 11 to noon Pacific. The show is Human Events Daily. You can get it on the podcast as well.
All right, my friend. We'll see
And
you
it's
soon.
amazing.
Yes, it is. And worth your
He's
God bless,
time.
guys.
He's really good at this. So
And Susan has decided Jack is going to be the next big something.
Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan
He's going
Seacrest.
to have the Ryan Seacrest
Ryan
effect one day.
Seacrest.
Susan is pretty good at picking that stuff. Yeah, well, she's pretty good
No,
at
the
picking that
Ryan
stuff,
Seacrest
Jack.
effect. You're going to
Okay,
be
all right.
big.
She
I
has
feel it.
she
So take all the jobs.
I will tell you where I learned not to question her instinct on these things. We were watching in the 90s. We were sitting there watching in living color. We were watching in living color.
Will
And
Smith.
she goes, oh my God, that goofy white guy is going to be a huge star. And I went,
Oh, no,
that
it was,
guy
Jim
just
Carrey.
a fireman? Yes, it was Jim Carrey. But at the time, it was like, he was just some wacky improv guy. I was like, why would you say that guy's going to be?
That's right.
I was
And I
very,
also
I was like,
talked-
come on, you got to be kidding. That guy,
also
there are all
met-
these talented people. Why do you pick that guy?
I also
Man,
met
Jim
Ryan
Carrey.
Seacrest his first year on American Idol, and he looked at me. He was like, "I can't believe I have this job." And I said, "Just be professional, Ryan. You know, do your job. Don't goof off like a stupid disc jockey." And I swear to God, every time I see him, he gives me a big hug. But
So, Jack, that was a sideways message for you, my friend. Don't be a
Stay
stupid.
professional.
I picked up on the sideways producing there a little bit. Oh yeah. I do goof off a lot.
All right, good to see you.
Good to see you guys. God
Take
bless.
care, my friend.
show up on time.
We are going to. That's what I was the one that was late today, which I've never been before. Actually, almost late.
I got you here, though.
All right, we are going to really switch gears here now. Thanks to our friends at Hillside, which is an organization that we've supported for years. They are
30 years.
God, it's been a long time.
I know, we're getting old.
They are one of the premier or models, I would say, for therapeutic living environments and educational environments for young people at risk, particularly those that have come from abuse, people come out of the foster care system.
Homeless.
If we only had 10,000 of these, we could literally solve the mental health problems in this country. But Hillside has brought us today Angela Alvarez, and it's thanks to Hillside that she is here. She has a very interesting story of her own. I will let her tell that story. But she has, because of that, she is committed to several causes. We're going to particularly focus on grief management, but I also want to focus on homelessness too, if you'll permit me. So, Angela, we appreciate you being here very much. Tell us, perhaps we start with, you want to start with your story or start with the organization? Yeah.
Well, I am so happy to have found Hillside. And it was mostly because I am a grieving mother. This is my son, Jeremiah.
Oh, it's lovely.
My sweet son meant the world to me. Still does. So I attended some meetings of the Compassionate Friends, which they have a worldwide following. There's chapters
hand
everywhere.
that to me so I
Would
can
you
get
like to
a
see
better picture of it, because I think the light was doing weird stuff on it. Caleb, if you can, Susan's got Caleb, you can switch it, yes?
So
There we are. I still have trouble seeing it.
this
Okay.
chapter, this organization is for grieving parents, and they support grandparents and siblings, and mostly we get together, we speak about our children, and it can be at times heartbreaking, ultimately uplifting. And what I got from it after being just in the dark for days and weeks and months, not knowing how to navigate out of this pain of grief of losing my son, my only son, my child, was just to listen to other people. How did you do? Give me your experiences. And now I'm almost 10 years down the road. It'll be 10 June 5th. So I love to talk to people and say, how did you make it? And they'll say, well, I started a foundation. I went to court, and the murder of my daughter is, and it's very powerful. Everybody's grief is so different, yet it's universal, right? So I'm so grateful that I found this, and I found a purpose in carrying on Jeremiah's legacy, because he was very concerned about underprivileged, homeless people in particular. Anytime he saw anyone on the street, even as a little boy, he was, Mom, give him some money. And then when he got older, it was all his money. He would give the shirt off his back. And so this, I think, just kind of came to me by the virtue of being among friends, right? That go down my road. So I thought I can help with homeless people. I have donated to LA on Cloud 9 and LA regional food banks. And there's just so many, there's such a need, Dr. Drew, you know that. And Susan, you know that in living in Los Angeles and around the world, around this country anyway, the state, there's so much need. And I am currently taking care of Jeremiah's father, my ex-husband, and he was homeless. And to take care of one person is so much. I took him to Department of Social Services, the DMV, to get a license or get an ID, and go to Social Security. I mean, we've done multiple things. Just getting him back on his feet is so difficult. And that's one person. There are so many people on the streets.
Right.
So, and we, that we have all these different initiatives and laws and not laws, but things that we put on the ballot, and we give our money to it. But where does it go?
No, it goes down to look. The Department of Justice, having looked into it, it's wasted so badly.
Right.
And to your point, I'm guessing this is addiction. Yes.
Yes, my ex-husband. Yes, was
I know how to deal with it. It's doing it by yourself is impossible.
Right.
But if you have a team of people, it is not that hard. It's quite doable.
Right.
But you have to be able to take people a hand and go, "Come with me.
Exactly.
I've got something for you. Let's go. Let's do this. Here we go." And you can't say it's okay to keep doing drugs. It's not okay to lie down on the sidewalk.
Right.
They will die if you do that.
They will die.
It is negligent homicide. And you see what's required. One, I would never attempt to treat an addict alone, ever. You have to have a team of people.
Right,
so you're taking on a lot.
Fortunately, he's clean now. If he's under my roof, and he is absolutely clean.
But you see the efforts you have to make, and there's still more to be done. I'll try to help you with that. But believe me, it's a that's why there are 12-step programs and things like that, because you can't, a single practitioner can't do it alone. You need communities of people, teams, much the way you needed it when you were dealing with grief. It's different but similar in terms of the need of other people.
Right.
Lots of other people.
So many people. So what do you see as the first step? Is it just getting us?
We got to change the laws so doctors like me can help them. And there has to be you have to put forth, drug addicts will use until they die if you don't put forces in place to move them in the right direction. And when they do recover, they're like, "Why did you leave me on the street? Right. What were you thinking? What was that all about? Right. I was dying of drug addiction. You thought that was a good idea, just let me lie down on the sidewalk? That's inhuman." And so, I know exactly how to create programs and build programs and to do that. I did it for 30 years and we had great success with it. And we have more tools even now. We can make it even better. But you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do it. People in California, they take the position that your husband was living his best life on the street, doing it his way, man. Who are you to say? Right. It's terrible. It's terrible. So tell me more about Jeremiah's, what is the actual formal, can people support it? Can people help you with it?
Well,
Jeremiah's, what's the name of it? Jeremiah's Cause? Journey. Jeremiah's Journey is the name of the organization.
Right.
Okay. Can people help with it?
Sure. I will set up a website. I haven't done that yet. I'm 10 years down the line. I've basically helped everyone else.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, well, this is something I can do. And because I know what it takes to help one person. So now I can go and help other people one by one. That's, I guess, how we do it.
Yes and no. It's complicated. Yes, it definitely requires human-to-human contact. Right. You can't do it on sort of from a distance. Right. It's something you have to have hands-on with. Yeah, for sure.
And I've been so fortunate to find groups like LA on Cloud 9 that we actually go on the streets and we give toiletries and clothing and shoes and socks, everything to the people directly that are on the streets. And some want to be in a home and others do not.
Most do not. Most do not because their brain isn't working right. When they wake up, they're like, "Would you let me do that?" They all the same. It's like, what? You listened to me when I was in that condition? Why did you listen to me? I was a drug addict.
Right. So I guess when you think of tiny villages, those are very expensive to even build. And then people don't want them in their backyard. Right. So what
have you heard of the Trieste plan? It's in Trieste, Italy. There are people that know how to build residential programs. It's not
rocket science.
It's not that hard, but you have to fund it and do it, and then put people in it. You have to say it, and there are places there are tons of them in Orange County right now. People don't even know they're there because guess what? These are now functioning community members that are part of their own little community also, but they're given vocational rehab and things, so they go out and work.
Exactly what they need.
Yeah, of course,
physical therapy, occupational,
and medical management, psychiatric management, ongoing 12-step. It's daily stuff, and it's hard.
That, Dr. Drew?
Trieste plan, Trieste. They were going to build one in West Hollywood, and then all of a sudden it went away. I don't know why, but people don't want to provide services for people with addiction. It's weird to me.
It is weird. There's a stigma surrounding it. Right?
Anything that is a brain disease, we in this country sort of get weird about.
So true.
I mean, there's something called anosognosia, which is, and you've seen this no doubt, anosognosia is a neurological process that was a term that was coined at the beginning of the 20th century. And it's essentially a block in insight. And all serious mental illness has that. You don't realize what's happening to you. That's innate. There it is, a neurological condition, which patients unaware of the neurologic deficit or psychiatric condition. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Wow.
And all serious, they don't. Their thinking is all screwed up because of that. They don't see it. They don't know it. And so everything that with addiction, it's all oriented towards using. And the anosognosia is not seeing what the consequences are of all that disturbed thinking. And we have privileged anosognosia in the law in California. We've said if somebody's thinking that way, you got to leave them alone. They're hey man, who are you to say? This is people. I always say this. People think, first of all, they think psychiatric care is the same as it was in the past. It's very different. It's much more. It's lovely. But, and they will point at something like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I will say two things about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Let me have the camera back. My camera. That was not a documentary. That was not a documentary about psychiatric hospitals, number one. Number two, that was written 75 freaking years ago. 75 years ago. You don't think things are better and changed since then? They are. And they can be done very beautifully, very, very, really in ways that are humane and just and caretaking and, not negligent homicide like we have going on right now. So thank you for doing the work for homeless because they need it. They're just being, they're being part of some sort of political something. I don't know what. It's hard to understand.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
There's so many in need right now.
Let's talk a little more about grief, if you don't mind, because it is such a big deal. It's so hard, and we will do anything to avoid it. And as a human, right? We just don't want it. I don't blame people for it. Who wants to feel the grief?
Of course. Yeah.
But if you don't, it's
you have to, or you'll get an ulcer. That's what I used to tell myself. Go ahead and cry. Not obviously in a professional situation. I'm a court reporter. I can't. Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm going to have a breakdown. I'll be right back. Can't do that. But when you're at home in your privacy or your car or something, then let it out. It has to come out. And I was so grateful that I didn't take 3 days after my son had passed, I was told, you have to stop crying. Like, no,
you
that's
don't.
not going to happen.
No, I would think you'd cry for a few weeks.
Oh, it's been months and years.
But I mean, we worry after a few months that people fall into an unresolved grief or depression.
True.
That's true. But if you're doing something active, like being part of a grief group, that's not likely to happen.
And that's why
and they'll watch you too. They'll let you know if the grief seems disproportionate or somehow pathological.
And you know what was the most helpful for me? My friend is a therapist, and she did, and I'm sorry I forgot the name of it, but you do this.
EMDR.
Thank you. And I did that, and I started with the very beginning of Jeremiah's diagnosis of lung cancer.
That's not fair.
It's not fair. 27 years old.
Ugh.
Just genetics from my father's side of the family. It was what we figure. We don't know. Who knows? So I went from the very beginning of his journey going through the treatment and everything.
Traumatic. It's so traumatic.
It was so traumatic until he was in a hospital.
And you're in survival mode and you can't do it. You can't process it. You just go from one thing to the next. Yeah.
Just one foot in front of the other trying to help him. So there's a lot. He ended up ultimately being overdosed in the hospital. I don't know if you, I told Susan, but he was overdosed with fentanyl and Dilaudid. That's how he died, as opposed to lung cancer. And now it's really sad for me because I have the guilt that I didn't save him or that I didn't notice that they were, doing twice the dosage and not removing
Well,
the dilated.
let's be fair. If he's in that kind of pain, it wasn't going to be long.
Right. However, the immunotherapy was just starting. And I know people that was stage 4 lung cancer today that have beat it from immunotherapy. So
he was just starting Keytruda or something, or was
he was on Tarceva. And then, he was managing with a 25 microgram. They put 50 on him. And, yeah.
That doesn't usually kill people. It's not that much. Was he taking sleeping pills or something too, or something?
No, the nurse didn't remove his dilaudid. So he was he just got an overdose. He had a respiratory arrest. So I went through this whole thing of, do I sue? This is medical malpractice. I'm a court reporter. I know I've done many depositions, many trials. I know lawyers, and they sort of were like, I don't think so. And now I see many more of these now, and it doesn't matter the stage. At the time, it was, no, the stage is 4. Sorry. Now, that's not the case because you can survive, and people are thriving.
Oncology, I've said if I were starting on training again, I'd think about being an oncologist. And back when I was in training, I was like, why do you do that? You can't do anything. You can't accomplish anything. Now we can do a lot.
Many people
which is amazing.
survive late stages. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I'm really happy to see just in the 10 years since Jeremiah's been gone, what I've seen and seeing other people. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Remarkable.
I'm happy. I'm glad for them.
Well, to that point, so what a lot of people do with their grief is they find a way to make meaning, and giving back and being of service and doing something active.
Absolutely.
And yours is his foundation. And I want to be able to tell people where to go to get after it to help you.
I'll get back to you.
Okay. Shall we? Can they follow you on X or something, and maybe you'll announce it as it comes?
I can.
No. Instagram. Something.
I'm on Instagram.
Okay. Can they follow you?
Yes, please.
Okay. What's your Instagram handle?
It's A Alvarez 122.
So it's it's all run together, right? No spaces or anything?
Right. A Alvarez.
Alvarez, ALBAREZ 122. A Alvarez 122.
Yeah.
Follow Angela on Instagram. And if there's something that to be announced about the foundation, you will find it there. Is there anything else we should be focusing on going over? Oh, what's that, Caleb?
To make this easier for people, especially on the podcast, I'll add links to the show notes. So if you just go to drdrew.com/4152025, so it's like 4/15/2025, then all the links will be there later today.
Date.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Caleb.
I was going to say, I didn't understand why A. Alvarez was more complicated than 4152025, but it's the date. I can remember that.
That's great. I love it. But I would love to speak with or communicate with people who are in my shoes. We walk this path together.
Yeah.
And people have helped me.
I know there are people listening who are dealing with it or have dealt with it and would like support. Right. And so you can DM you or whatever on Instagram.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay.
When you get into service, you get out of pain just for a little while.
It just, we are meaning-making machines and as humans, and we don't do enough of it. And it's one of the healthiest impulses we have. And it becomes life-saving in these extreme circumstances.
It's so rewarding. It's gratifying. You help someone else. You're not just looking at the pain that you have it right in front of you.
Yeah.
Right, Dr. Drew?
Yeah, it wasn't fair. That's not fair. But, fairness is not part of God's plan, strangely.
Right.
And
but his legacy continues and will help others.
That's right. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you for the work, and we hope we can support it as it goes forward.
Thank you for supporting Hillside.
Yes, so important.
Hillsides, I love it.
That's another giving back.
We put it up as a donation, as an auction item a couple of years ago, and I'd forgotten I had done it. And then she came around, and I was like, oh, this will be good. So it's always good to have a fresh face in here and information from people that are living life. It's we all have experiences, and we really appreciate you joining us and for supporting Hillsides.
Absolutely.
And if anybody wants to reach out and support Hillsides, it's hillsides.org. We have a benefit every year, and we have we raise money every year for the cause there, but your money goes to a good place.
Oh my goodness, yes, for sure.
It helps kids from ages 0 to 18, and then it also
they have a transitional living.
They also carry on. They send them to college, and they help them with whatever they're dealing with through their whole life.
Hillsides is similar to what we should be doing for a homeless population, right? And a lot of them were homeless, right? Because a lot of kids that come out of foster care, even without addiction, end up homeless, and so they need stuff like Hillsides.
Age out.
They age out, and there's no system there to capture them. Hillsides helps. Hillsides really helps.
I've been
with
to
that.
their campus. It's beautiful,
Mhm.
and I picked up my donated items that I picked up. I got some paintings and
Nice.
yeah, it was great. It was great. It was great. I got a lot of things. Yes.
And you can go there and donate your time as well. Like you can read to the kids, or you can
do that.
But seeing the campus is really a good thing because you really see how it works. It's it's an amazing group of people, and I think they have 70 kids on the
At a time,
campus.
They try to move people through.
and that's a lot of kids.
Oh
It's a
my.
lot of kids. Well, I'd be happy to give my time. I love stuff like that. That just
Well, call Carrie Espinoza. She'll
Yeah.
set you up.
She will give you stuff to do. There's always need for manpower. All right, so we are going to leave
If
it.
anybody wants to know, it's here in Pasadena. So if
Yeah.
you live in the LA basin and you want to support,
It's
you
over towards Highland Park, so it's more towards Los Angeles. So there's ample opportunity for people from all over the LA area to come and be a part of it.
involved. Come on.
Yeah.
We need you.
All right, everybody, let's put up the upcoming guest here. There's the schedule. Susan's show is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Check
Yes,
that
it
out.
is.
Sasha Latipova, who I'm just so blown away by her stuff. She's too smart. There's too much going on in that brain of hers, so we have to get an update. Mark Rubert coming
Wait,
in.
also, tomorrow's show, we're going to have another Hillsides donation person who's a climate expert.
Oh, good.
So we can, that'll
find out
be
more
fun.
about that. Elijah Schaefer, will that be from Florida on 4:30? Is that what I'm looking at there?
Yes.
All
we're
right.
doing it.
And Dana Loesch.
on 4:30. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we leave for a little while.
We
But
might have another show on that Friday too. We're not sure. We're working on it.
all right, let me just quickly look at gosh, what's going on here? My stupid, there we go. Look at the restream, see if they're going on with you guys.
We had a really good audience today. I really appreciate all you new people who are joining us because we love X. We had a good turnout. Anybody who's new here, welcome, welcome, welcome.
There's a very strange thing here about Reagan getting shot because he was off script and the guy riding in the back wanted his hands on the no. You must be a young person. You were not here when that all happened. I was here. I was watching it. Thank you guys.
Time traveler.
Yeah, I'm a time traveler. That's my new moniker, dude. I think I need
Old
a
man
new
time.
No, I'm not going to go there. Just I'm a time traveler. See, I'm coming forward as the young person I was from the 90s and 80s, and I'm reporting from the past. Here's a super chat. It's not okay to take drugs and lie down on the sidewalk. That's what I say.
Or step over somebody lying on the sidewalk.
No, it's all not good. It's just a mess. And I have tried to render my services there, and they will not hear of a clinician, and the physicians are not involved. It's like literally they're running a hospital without doctors and nurses. That's what they're doing. A hospital without walls, doctors, or nurses. It's insane. It's insane. It makes no sense at all. Thank you very much. But I'm glad you're there. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 for Susan's show, 2 o'clock for my show. I won't forget that it's at 2, not 3. I don't want you to forget either.
We talk to dead people tomorrow at 11 a.m. So
All right.
join me. Okay.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.